In a galaxy where strength decides survival, there existed a world that even the bravest feared. Dravak. A planet of fire, towering jungles, and endless war. It was home to the Kravix, massive, powerful alien warriors known across star systems for one thing: dominance. They didn't negotiate. They didn't hesitate. They conquered. And their cubs? They were worse. From the moment they were born, the cubs were thrown into brutal training grounds. No guidance. No mercy. Only instinct. Only survival. The strongest lived. The weakest disappeared. But there was a problem that even the Kravix couldn't solve. The cubs were uncontrollable. Too aggressive. Too wild. Too dangerous, even for their own kind. Trainers failed. Warriors were injured. Some never returned. To the Kravix, this wasn't just chaos. It was a flaw. Then one day, the sky broke. A human ship tore through the atmosphere, burning as it fell. It crashed deep into the jungle, shaking the ground like thunder. From the wreckage stepped a man who didn't belong on a planet like this. Aaron Hale. Not a soldier. Not a fighter. A teacher. He didn't last long before the Kravix found him. Surrounded, outmatched, and completely defenseless, he was dragged before their leaders. Towering figures stared down at him, their glowing eyes filled with judgment. Weak. Fragile. Useless. That's what they saw. But instead of killing him, they made a decision. Let him try, one leader growled. If he survives, he teaches the cubs. It wasn't hope. It was amusement. Aaron was taken to the training grounds. The moment he stepped inside, everything went silent. Dozens of cubs turned toward him. Their eyes locked. Their muscles tightened. And then they attacked. Fast. Brutal. Relentless. Claws tore through the air. Teeth snapped with deadly precision. It wasn't a test. It was an execution. But Aaron didn't run. He didn't fight. He didn't scream. Instead, he did something no one expected. He stood still. And slowly, he knelt. The cubs hesitated. Confused. This wasn't fear. This wasn't dominance. This was something they had never seen before. One cub stepped forward, smaller but just as dangerous. It growled low, then lashed out, its claws cutting into Aaron's arm. Blood fell to the ground. Still, he didn't move. Didn't react. Didn't resist. He simply looked at the cub, and said softly, "It's okay." The growling faded. The cub stopped. And in that impossible moment, something changed. Days passed. Then weeks. The Kravix watched, waiting for the inevitable failure. But it never came. Instead, the cubs began to change. Slowly. Unnaturally. They started to listen. Not because they were forced. But because they chose to. Aaron didn't train them with fear. He didn't punish them. He didn't try to dominate their strength. He taught them how to control it. Focus instead of chaos. Discipline instead of destruction. He gave them something they had never known. Names. To the Kravix, names meant weakness. Attachment. Emotion. But to the cubs, it became identity. And with identity, came purpose. They followed him. Protected him. Trusted him. And for the first time in their existence, the uncontrollable became controlled. Then, everything changed. The sky darkened. Massive warships pierced through the clouds, their shadows swallowing the land below. The raiders had arrived. A force known across galaxies for destruction. They didn't conquer planets. They erased them. Explosions ripped through the jungle. Fire consumed everything in its path. Kravik's warriors charged into battle, but even they began to fall. The enemy was too strong. Too advanced. Too many. Dravak was losing. At the edge of the battlefield stood Aaron. Unarmed. Calm. Watching the chaos unfold. Behind him stood the cubs. No longer wild. No longer weak. But still, young. Still, untested. The raiders saw him and laughed. A human, one of them mocked. This ends quickly. They advanced. Weapons raised. Certain of victory. And then Aaron spoke. One word. Stand. The cubs froze. Instantly. Perfectly still. Even as explosions shook the ground. Even as death approached. They didn't move. Because for the first time in their lives, they chose to obey. Then came the second command. Protect. What happened next changed everything. The cubs moved. Not like animals. Not like chaos. But like something far more dangerous. They fought with precision. With coordination. With purpose. Every movement was controlled. Every strike was intentional. They didn't react. They anticipated. The raiders hesitated. Then panic spread. These creatures, they're thinking, one shouted. They're not beasts. Within moments, the battlefield shifted. The unstoppable raiders began to fall back. Then, to retreat. And finally, to run. A force that had destroyed countless worlds was now afraid. Silence returned to Dravak. Smoke filled the air. The war was over. But something far greater had begun. Across galaxies, the story spread. Not of the Kraviks. Not of the battle, but of a human. A teacher. Who didn't conquer through power. Didn't control through fear. But achieved the impossible through trust. Narrator, soft, deep tone. Because here's the truth. Power built on fear will always break. But power built on trust creates something unstoppable. Something even the strongest will run from. Milky Way.